I want to say a few words about the talk of a reverse merger between SpaceX, X, and Tesla. I think this is becoming more of a real thing as we speak. And when you have these types of situations, I think it's always very useful to think about three dimensions. One is, what do the owners want? Because the owners eventually decide what is the fate of their companies, what makes industrial logic, and then also generally maybe what it really makes sense maybe from a social political perspective, because we're talking about potentially $3 trillion company. I think we have to also take the social aspects, geopolitical aspects into account. So given that, I think the way we think about this is that it makes a lot of sense as Tesla shareholders probably to wait a little bit with this whole thing. So X and SpaceX should merge first, and then eventually, once we are more clear about the trajectory of Tesla, then a reverse merger of this new entity into X, and therefore a new company that encompasses X, SpaceX, and Tesla should be formed. It's not even on podcast. It's January 31st, 2026. This is Krim Delco. For the year, we're down 3.2%. The market's at 1.2. We're underperforming by 4.4%. So the talk about this whole SpaceX IPO, and then maybe they should merge with X and then merge with Tesla, and how that whole thing should be done, has gained traction recently, particularly in light of the earnings call of Tesla of last Wednesday. We've already published an episode about that. I think that was a pivotal call because Tesla is now functioning as an AI company fully and unapologetically. In other words, they're cutting S and X. Anything which, the Cybertruck is going to be an autonomous car. Cybercab, of course, is autonomous. Optimus is autonomous. We need 20 billion in that capex, which is mainly for training and also for factory build out for the supply chain. So this is not just about AI, of course. It's also about the actual hardware that is going to be driving this AI. So by the way, also the semi is going to be built. We have a lithium refining factory. We have battery factory, the 4680 going into the cars. So we have a self-sustaining, geopolitically independent AI company that delivers real-world AI. This is what Tesla is morphing into unapologetically. In other words, we're not mincing our words anymore. This is not about car sales. This is not about selling energy packs per se. It's about delivering energy and intelligence to the world in real form. So real, like transportation and Optimus are real world AI products. So that's what Tesla is morphing into. We spoke again. There's an episode, maybe about 2 episodes in the back, where we spoke about this. But I think for us, this is very exciting. This is what we've been waiting for years now. It's also incredibly important for Tesla to pivot into an AI company because that's where the money is. The competition in the car market is heating up. It was a little bit unexpected. Maybe we could have had a different scenario had the Chinese not caught up as fast as they have, had the United States customers maybe adopted electric cars faster than we thought. We could have a different scenario where Tesla is now maybe a $2 trillion company already selling 5 million cars per year. That hasn't happened, and that's fine. Sometimes you have to take different trajectories. But what's important is, of course, that we're building a supply chain. And we're building, to paraphrase one of the, I think it was Sean McGuire who said, we're building potential energy here to then unleash the kinetic energy, which is we're building this massive supply chain for real world AI, which then will be unleashed to the world and lower cost and higher value in terms of transportation for goods and for people. Now, in this context, now we have X and SpaceX also playing a role in the whole picture. And like I said, let's start with the most important question here, which is the owner. And the owner here is, of course, mainly Elon Musk. There's other owners that matter, but mainly Elon Musk. And then I would say actually the retail shareholder base of Tesla is the other big component that Musk is kind of attached to. So if you will, Musk maybe owns 20-something% of Tesla, but really with the whole base that he follows him, he has over 50% of Tesla, and that's that's a lot of leverage. He's kind of like a lord that has a lot of following and controls this company through that. Now, the question is, of course, what does Musk want? And I think there's probably 3 things he wants. Number one, he needs to have an entity that is able to raise the kind of capital that is necessary to build a global AI superpower. And let me just briefly talk about what that actually means. In other words, where is this whole thing going? And the way we can see it right now, what we need is we need terrestrial AI infrastructure, real world AI infrastructure, and that starts with lithium refining. It then goes to battery production. It then goes to car production, and then Optimus production. So we need the batteries, we need the hardware, and we need the intelligence for real world AI products. And that's, as far as we can tell right now, mainly cars and robots. The AI for that is maybe to simplify, there's two types of AI. One is the actual functional AI. So the cars have to drive themselves, which we already have now with 14.2 maybe 6 or something like that. But we also want to have a lot more intelligence here. We want to have semantics. We want to be able to, communicate with the cars. We want the cars to anticipate, traffic jams. We want them to, if I don't feel good, maybe tell us, hey, you know what? There's a doctor nearby. They have an appointment at 4:00 that I could book. Should I book an appointment for you? We can go much further than that. We can have elderly care. We can have handicapped people who have issues with maybe communicating in other terms than maybe verbally. So there's a lot of potential for adding intelligence to the vehicle that we still don't have, and the same applies to the robot. So again, there's functional AI that's the main conversation right now. So the robot has to be able to have dexterity and things along those lines. But then in the future also there will be semantic AI, and by the way, there's no limit to that AI, right? I mean, we are always sort of calibrating the AI that we're building now relative to us humans, but there's no reason to stop there. We're biologically constrained. I think the smartest people in the human race tend to be maybe physicists like Einstein and Feynman and people like that who have maybe an IQ of 160, and then it just goes down from there. And there's no reason why our artificial intelligent machines cannot have more IQ than that, and therefore solve even more important problems. We can have automated scientists. We can have automated, doctors that deliver much, much better healthcare than we are used to right now, just because they have more access to sensors and information than we have. So having said that, now back to what does that all mean for Tesla and SpaceX and X and Tesla and our shareholder sort of conglomerate. I think it makes sense to try to find a way to access massive amounts of energy and space to build AI data centers, and that will be the AI data centers in space. And I think when Musk started floating this idea about 6 months ago, I guess he had in mind that he needs to find a way to commercialize Starship faster than maybe the trajectory was before. Like before this AI data center idea started being floated by Musk. The concept was, okay, we have Starlink. Let me step just 1 second. Let me step back 1 second here. So think of like the space strategy of SpaceX, right? Which is the mission is to go to Mars. Now, the way Musk works and always works in every company is he's trying to build beachheads and generate profitability, and then use that profitability to conquer another beachhead. And so he's not a 0 to 1 type person, or 0-1 person where like I'm investing billions and billions and billions into something and hopefully it works or it doesn't. And we'll see 5 years from now, 10 years from now. He's much different. He's like, look, I have this big mission, but there are these sub goals that I can reach and generate positive cash flow on these sub goals, and then finance myself into this big goal. So for example, when he started Tesla, the goal wasn't to have a fully autonomous fleet of cars. the goal was just to build a car and then sell that car and then build the next car and sell that car and then, you know, build more factories, build batteries, sell that car, and then eventually use those cars to generate AI, to train the AI. And now we are at a fully autonomous fleet, or at the brink of a fully autonomous fleet. So the same way for space, like, you know, we have a reusable rocket, and now we have Starlink, which was the first cash flow monetizing Falcon 9, and now we need a way to monetize Starship, and one of the best ways to monetize Starship would be AI data centers. Whether AI data centers are feasible physically and technologically, that remains an open question. It seems that there's at least a consensus that that is possible. So then the question is, are they monetizable? And the idea here is that you have abundant energy and abundant space. And I think I don't want to underestimate the second one. Space is a problem. We have these huge data centers being built all over, mainly the US and some of them in China. And space is becoming more of an issue. And what I mean with space is basically the NIMBY problem. If you want to put billions and billions of dollars into whether it's in Texas or the Nevada desert, or I don't know, whichever place you, or Memphis in the case of Tesla and X, you will always have an NIMBY problem. There will be a political constituency that has you, excuse my French, by the balls. And you don't want that, like, at least not at scale, particularly in a politically charged environment that we are right now in the United States. So I think if you want to, let's say, 100x your investments in AI infrastructure, the opportunity to go to space is really compelling. Now, in order to go there, that's pretty expensive and difficult. Starship is the first leg. There's other things that need to be developed, but it seems, at least from a surface perspective, that technological problems, such as, for example, the actual chips that need to be, you know, radiation resistant and deal with whatever they have to deal with up in space, can be built. The cooling can be built, and then of course the data transmission, I believe is solved. I mean, that's not such a big issue, at least for training. Inference is a different story, but even inference, maybe for things that aren't critical, like self-driving cars and things like that, you can have inference from space. The actual self-driving cars, the Optimus robots, they might have to rely on edge compute. So having said that, now that is a beautiful way, and I think I want to paraphrase actually Joe Barty here. I appreciate his contribution here, because it was one of his videos that made me think, look, the best way to progress as a humanity has always been, it always has been, way back, thousands of years back. It's always been, if we can monetize exploration, whether it's Columbus, whether it's the Greeks, Alexander, whether it's the English with their colonies. It has always been, you know, or, you know, I just finished reading a few weeks ago Taipan, which is a book about the British expansion into Asia and China. And everything has always been about money, right? When you have money, when you have monetizable assets in this place where you're exploring, the case of Taipan, it was China and the Silk Route and the opium trade and all these things. That's when resources are being put to work. That's when people, when ingenuity works. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is, we have a way to make money in space. We will make money in space. We will find a way to go to space. And this is what AI data centers offers. Another way to think about this is that AI data centers in space are sort of a way to exploit captive energy. There's captive energy in space. So in other words, there's a lot of energy available in space. But how do we harness that energy and bring it to Earth? That's very difficult. I mean, we can't build a power plant up there and then transmit electricity or something like that down to Earth. That's at least not feasible right now. But if we can do something in space, such as, for example, train AI data centers or do Bitcoin mining and then bring it down to Earth, then that would be, I mean, maybe that's why Bitcoin is actually selling off right now, because if we have that much more energy, that much more availability of compute and space, then we could potentially have a lower you know, hash rate and things like that. But that's for a different podcast. So having this opportunity now to monetize space, I think now we're closing sort of the whole loop here back to, why should SpaceX and Tesla merge? Well, because you have a real world AI company that is building AI data centers in space, and that is becoming one big supply chain, right? We have the launch business of SpaceX, the chip and hardware and intelligence of Tesla, and on top of that, the AI of X. So the actual, let's say, intelligence. X is in the business of building foundation models for intelligence. Tesla's in the business of using that intelligence for real world AI. And SpaceX is in the business of building the AI data centers in space. So you have a fully integrated supply chain that delivers that. So in that sense, it makes industrial sense, and like I said in the beginning, it also makes sense for Musk to do it. And the last question, I guess, is, does it make sense for us Tesla shareholders? And here, I would say probably yes, but I would actually urge most Tesla shareholders to just take a deep breath and think about the dynamics here a little bit. Where are we as Tesla shareholders right now? We've been waiting for the last 4 years maybe for this moment when Tesla is pivoting into an AI company. And the question now is, of course, is this a slingshot moment, or is this just an empty promise? It's up to you to decide. I'm not going to comment on that. I'm a fully invested person here in Tesla, so clearly I believe it's a slingshot moment. And therefore, there's a good chance that, I guess in plain English, what I'm saying is we could see a good appreciation of Tesla stock in the next, let's say, 9 months. So by year end, I think we should have some 6 in front of the shares, 600 something. I said a few episodes before that we'd be sellers in the 900 range. So if the stock doubles this year, I think it would anticipate a lot of potential. So we'd be sellers. 700 is probably a good price. So in other words, we could have a decent appreciation of Tesla standalone. And that puts us in a position where we might have to think, okay, well, should we merge now or should we merge later? And I think if you're Elon Musk, you might think the same way. Well, look, for him, obviously, it doesn't matter as much. He's invested in all these companies. And even for us, you could say, look, do we really have to split pennies here? Because if we merge all this together, let's say together, the companies are worth $2.5 trillion right now as of market prices. They could be worth maybe $3 trillion just together. So this is the inverse of sum of the parts, that if you put things together, they gain in value because there's more efficiency, there's better capital raise, there's more political power, which, by the way, is also something I don't want to neglect here, that the actual political situation is important. We have a very good political climate for such a merger. Trump, Sachs, Vance, and pretty anybody else, Hagzad, they're all behind building this huge champion. Whether China would approve this merger is a different question, but we could see a scenario where if China doesn't approve it, then Tesla just sells its China business to another entity and continues without the China business. So that's an option, which I think is actually very realistic, because you would not want having a China leg in this gigantic AI company, because that AI company, if you like it or not, will slowly but surely merge also into or morph into a defense company. I mean, whatever they're going to build is going to have defense implications. The intelligence part, the robot part, the self-driving part. So the drone part that doesn't exist yet, but I'm sure will be added to the whole package. So in other words, we could see a scenario where China doesn't approve, and then they sell the Tesla business to Xiaomi or somebody like that, and we shareholders just continue participating a little bit like Uber did with Didi. Which, by the way, could even boost their stock, because that would be amazing if there's less competition in China. So that's a scenario that I think we have to take into account. But for us shareholders, that would be actually good news. So we have a spin-off of the China business. Xiaomi, let's say, buys the business, and then we have just exposure to Xiaomi, which is fine. It's a very good company in China. So to summarize, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think we as shareholders are supporting it. Musk supports it. The politics support it, the industrial logic supports it, so therefore it's going to happen. And it's going to happen at what price? I think it's going to happen at much higher prices than we are talking today. Whether that is through actual industrial deliveries, which I think will happen, so we'll deliver, in this case, Tesla will deliver more financials, have better cash flows because of robotaxi launch, and I don't know, on the Starlink side, maybe there's also better economics there. X, I'm not so sure about the economics there, but we can have better economics, so higher share prices, higher values. We can also have higher values just through the combination, through higher liquidity, and sort of call it a Musk premium that will be put on these three stocks together. So overall, I think it makes a lot of sense, and therefore it's going to happen. The timing, I would say, in the next 6 months, we'll see X and SpaceX merge. In the next 12 months, we'll have the whole entity merged into one big entity. Thank you.